This is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints, with Father Nathan Cromly.
My name is Father Cromly. I'm the president of the St. John Institute, and this is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints. Most of us are familiar with the story of Moses and all of the tales of the exodus of the Jews from Egypt recounted to us in the book of Exodus. We know about the cruel slavery, the 10 plagues, the miracles and wonders, all wrought at the hand of Moses, God's chosen servant. And many of us can see written in this story, the story of our own lives. From the call that we feel that we've received from God to dare something great, like starting a family, starting a business, reaching out and making a difference in the world, to the role of people like Aaron and the many friends who accompany us in our endeavors. There are surely so many leadership lessons for us to draw from the life of someone like Moses. He endured so much in order to achieve his goal of the liberation of his people by the strength and power of God. That's why Exodus chapter 12 strikes us with such a joyful tone. In verse 33 we read, "The Egyptians were urgent with the people to send them out of the land in haste. They take with them quickly all the things that they have." And as it says in verse 37, the people of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children. So if, of course, we count that, that would come to over 1 million people at the same time, being led by the hand of Moses simultaneously out of slavery, out of oppression, into the glorious freedom of the children of God. In addition, the Bible tells us that there was a mixed multitude with them, very much livestock, both flocks and herds. And they baked unleavened cakes out of the dough that they had brought out of Egypt, for it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not wait, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. This is such a joyful picture of exuberant, exultant victory. Moses and Aaron walking side by side at the head of 1 million people with their animals and their flocks of animals, their tools, their possessions, all at once moving into the desert, away from everything that they had known, following the commandment of one single person, Moses, the servant of God. It's an incredible achievement, to say the least. In fact, it boggles the imagination. How could one man achieve so much? Sometimes the greatest achievements in our lives boggle our imaginations too. How was it that we really could have conceived and birthed a child? How was it that we could have reared a child to graduation from a university, to watching them come down the aisle to found their own family in so short a time? For those of us who have been blessed with a success in business, you sit back sometimes and just scratch your head, remembering how you started something from nothing, only to see it flourishing and giving value to so many others. Leadership requires great effort. It requires great sacrifice, but it's at the service of great victories. And here Moses, who was reluctant to lead to begin with, who was 75 years old when he began the leadership journey, who had risked his life and limb in order to bring the message of God's liberating desire to the most powerful man on earth, suddenly found himself at the head of the people that he had been called to liberate, not by anything he could have done on his own, but by the strength and power of Almighty God. And it was for him now to lead his people into that victory. Sometimes it's easier for us to lead through challenge, through crisis, or even through seeming defeat than it is for us to embrace the good, to embrace the victory, and to show the people that what they've accomplished is for a greater purpose. Sometimes it's easier to identify ourselves by our struggles. After all, when the Jews were still in Egypt, at least they knew where they wanted to go, anywhere but Egypt. But now Moses was leading them into the unknown, into a desert. I'm sure many of them asked themselves the question, where exactly are we going? It's harder to navigate the success and the unknowns of potential because the enemy is not as clear. The objective is not as defined. And yet Moses goes there. After all, the God who led us through challenge will certainly lead us through victory. And we, like Moses, need to embrace victory like we did challenge, by treading boldly.